3. There will be impressions in the next few moments.
So, the new version of It is out. So, Stephen King's Doorstopper famously turned into was made for television. Tommy was directed, and of course, starring as Pennywise the clown,
The dancing clown.
Pennywise the dancing clown, Tim Curry.
Hiya, Georgie. There you go. And that is actually
quite a good Tim Curry, isn't it?
It is very good.
And this is something which is very close to our hearts, because both you and I over the years have discussed things which get under people's skin. And one of them is, the idea of scary clowns. Coulrophobia. And of course, the classic scary clown is the scary clown in It, as played by Tim Curry in that miniseries. I mean, the miniseries itself is a little bit that TV version is a little bit up and down, but Tim Curry never puts a clown foot wrong. And that very first sequence in which you see, hiya, Georgie, when he's hiding in the storm drain is really, really properly creepy. So, here we are again with that story. Again, the opening sequence, which is poor young Georgie being lured into the storm drain by terrifying Pennywise, the dancing clown, this time played by Bill Skarsgård, stepping into those enormous shoes of Tim Curry. The action is set in the late 1980s, moved from the 50s of the novel. And by the time the summer rolls around, more kids are starting to go missing. We have a group of misfits who sort of self-define as the losers, who are all variously being haunted by visions which tap into their deepest personal fears. Here's a clip.
My grandfather thinks this town is cursed. He says that all the bad things that happen in this town are because of one thing, an evil thing that feeds off the people of Derry.
But it can't be one thing. We all saw something different.
Maybe. Or maybe it knows what scares us most, and that's what we see.
I saw a leper. He was like a walking infection.
But you didn't. Because it isn't real. None of this is. None of this makes any sense. They're all like bad dreams.
I don't think so. I know the difference between a bad dream and real life, okay? We're all afraid of something.
Got that right. Why, Rich? What are you afraid of? Clowns.
Hiya, Georgie. I praised your this particular impression.
Stop doing it.
Yep.
Okay, so basically they come to the conclusion that there is a single entity that is somehow sort of shape-shifting and representing all the different fears, and it is cursing the town of Derry, Maine. And they go hunting for it, a hunt which takes them through woods, through into the sewers, very much like Stand By Me, which obviously is based on The Body, which is a Stephen King story from that collection, the Different Seasons collection, which also I think includes Shawshank Redemption and Apt Pupil, isn't it? And then to a house that looks like it was left over from the shoot of Psycho. And whilst this is going on, they pass a cinema which is showing Batman Lethal Weapon 2 and significantly A Nightmare on Elm Street 5. In the kids' bedrooms, we have posters for Gremlins and Beetlejuice on the wall. So this is very much a cine-literate universe that this film is living in. The film inhabits a world of movies, and it will obviously chime to some extent with people who've been watching Stranger Things and tapping into that kind of weird nostalgia. Funnily enough, the two things that it reminded me of most are The Goonies and Poltergeist. It's very, very similar in tone to The Goonies and Poltergeist. It's directed by Andre Muschietti, who made Mama. And the thing that really drives the film is that he has a clear and very tangible affection for the kids. The kids are all on this sort of cusp. It's going to be a coming-of-age story. They're all individually racked with fears and guilts and phobias, and they're all having to sort of face their fears, which is a sort of classic coming-of-age story. And he clearly likes them very much, and you can feel that energy of him liking those characters, and that gives the film this sort of driving power. One of the things people keep saying is it scary? Well, what it is it's a horror adventure. And when I say Goonies and Poltergeist, I mean, particularly in the case of Poltergeist is very much a sort of, Spielbergian fantasia, which absolutely has horrifying things in it, but it has that sort of, adventure feel. This with the scenes of kids on bicycles, scenes of kids having a rock fight, the outdoor stuff, which weirdly at some points also reminded me of things like Kings of Summer. It is as much a coming-of-age tale and as much a story about those friendships and about those, the kind of misfits finding each other, as it is about archetypal mythological horror, in which it sort of manifests most clearly in the form of Pennywise, who I have to say is rather brilliantly played by Bill Skarsgård. I mean, what he manages to do is, whereas the difference with this version is that this particular Pennywise has got this very, almost like a kind of babyish head, almost like a sort of big malevolent baby head, and these kind of Bugs Bunny teeth, and speaks with this lilting, broken chime kind of voice. And the score all the way through goes between kind of nursery rhyme, nursery crime themes that are reminiscent once again of, 1, 2, Freddy's Coming for You from Nightmare on Elm Street, and these sort of lush orchestral themes, which are very, very much like John Williams, and give you that sense of, adventure, of the widening horizons of youth. Benjamin Wallfisch did the score, and I think he's done a really, really good job of getting to the emotional core of the story. The other thing that it does, I thought rather well, slightly thumbnail, but I thought it does it well, is it addresses that Stephen King theme, which is that these things are all passed down through generations. So you get the bully, the character who's the bully in the town, who's the leader of the bully gang, and he's horrible. He's absolutely horrible. And yet the most powerful scene is when you see him being bullied by his father, and you realise that all of this stuff is coming down from generation to generation, which is absolutely a theme which has gone through Stephen King. When you look at other King adaptations, it's, as I said, weirdly enough, this is closer to Nightmare on Elm Street and Poltergeist than it is, for example, to The Shining, which everybody always holds up as, the great Stephen King adaptation of The Shining. And of course, King was always very, very uncertain about that version of The Shining. And The Shining is really a Stanley Kubrick movie. I remember there was a phrase that somebody used once. When I used to write for Fangoria, sorry, I know I mention that all the time, but the phrase that they used was, if The Shining was a film for people who don't like Stephen King, The Dead Zone is a film for people who don't like Stephen King or David Cronenberg. And this is absolutely a film for people who like Poltergeist, who like The Goonies, who like Stand By Me, who like all of those kind of youthful adventure stories, but told with this kind of, this very sort of firm streak of horror, with a great inflection of Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street. Personally, I could have had it being a little bit more scary, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked its spirit. It's only the early part of the story. We still have the adult part of the story to do. This is chapter 1, so, we have more to come, hopefully. That's happening. And on the strength of how enthusiastic people seem to be about seeing this new version, I have no doubt that is happening.